Okay, so guys, this presentation is what we lovingly refer to as top investor mistakes, and I'll get out of the way so you guys can see. But before I get started on this, does anybody in here still have a buzzer? Does anybody in here still have a buzzer? Still a buzzer? Okay, so a couple of you guys. So if you are interested in joining membership and you did not yet get buzzed out yet, please just go and see them. They'll have you in and out super quickly. If you guys got here a little late or are interested in joining membership, you're welcome to go outside. I know they've got some free iPads set up to where you guys can join and get set up for membership. And again, they'll be very quickly. So guys, I'll go over some of these things. But again, I'm not an attorney, CPA, or financial planner. When I talk to you guys about some of these things are things that have worked for me, my colleagues, and us in our business. We do recommend that you have all your contracts reviewed, and something that my attorney makes me say, by your own attorney, financial advisor before you complete any real estate transactions. I'll tell you, this presentation, Top Investor Mistakes, Phil and I actually originally made this presentation in 2009. When the market was in the tank and when we started to see a lot of investors on the foreclosure list. Since then, we've updated it many times as the market's changed and as we've learned different things in the market as well. But some of the questions that I commonly get asked is the realtor questioning, buying right, managing renovations, getting education from what we call out-of-state pitchmen, and some of the mistakes you can make there. But I will tell you as we go through, is anybody in here considering, should I be thinking about becoming a realtor as part of it? Okay, all right, so this is for you guys then. Then I'll fully disclose that I am a licensed Texas realtor and broker, license number 0518223. Everyone has been disclosed to, please don't sue me. But I will tell you, you don't have to be a realtor to be an investor. Now, I am both a realtor and an investor. My husband, Phil, who you guys met earlier, is just an investor. He is not a realtor. What we have found is the best team in the world is a realtor investor and a non-realtor investor. But I will tell you this. And I see a lot of people who are interested or thinking about going to realtor school, thinking about getting a license and thinking, I'm going to learn a lot about real estate when I go to realtor school. And I see one person in the back laughing. Are you a licensed realtor?
I'm just going.
I knew that. So I mean, this is like, so I just saw David Copperfield in like Las Vegas, and he did this thing every time we talked to somebody in the audience. Have we ever met before? Have we ever met before? No. Well, hold on. Are you? Yeah. Oh, are you a licensed realtor?
I'm a broker.
You're a broker. Okay, so yeah. You guys are both laughing.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me just ask you guys, for the people in the room who are thinking about becoming a realtor, what did you learn about real estate investing in realtor school? And you, sir? Oh, what a shocker. What did you learn, I don't know, about real estate in realtor school?
Contracts.
Not much, right? So were you kind of shocked at how little you learned in realtor school? I know I was. I mean, I'll tell you, one of the things that was on my test was the question of how many cubic yards of cement does it take to pour a 2-car driveway? Which I know as a real estate investor and a realtor and a broker, I use every day. That was a joke. I'll tell you what. Yes, sir, it is. But so sometimes when I say that, people don't necessarily believe me. But when you hear it from other realtors and brokers who are in the room, you get the feeling that when you go to realtor school, it's not what you think it's going to be. In fact, I think they confuse you more and scare the hell out of you more than probably anything else. They make it kind of sound like, and it's funny because I remember one of my instructors basically told the story of, well, one time I heard about this realtor who walked out of her house and she had sued. Do they make it sound like that? In realtor school, like everything you do, you can get sued. They basically scare you out of wanting to become a realtor, a broker, or even a real estate investor, and they make you think that you can't do both of those things. You can be both a realtor and an investor. You just have to disclose. So the TREC contract that they updated in 2016, they've updated again in 2018, but the one that they updated in 2016, they put the disclosure for whether or not you are an owner, either a seller or a buyer of one of the companies that are selling or buying, on page 1 of the TREC contract. So you disclose right there. As a realtor, anytime I put a property under contract, I still have to show them the information about brokerage services form. That is a requirement for me as a realtor. The way that I explain it to them is this. I say, listen, this is a required form by the Texas Real Estate Commission. It explains how representation and brokerage representation works in the great state of Texas. I'm not representing you in this particular instance in any of these different categories, but because this is a required form, we have to get this signed. Everything after that, guys, works like a regular real estate transaction. So don't be worried if you are a realtor. Is it okay if I invest? But I will tell you this, if you are with some of the big brokerage houses here in Austin, here in just in Texas in general, they do not encourage you to be both an investor and a realtor, okay? They want you to be just a realtor. They want to operate doing stuff inside of the box. Inside of the box is great, but for real estate investors, most of the stuff we do is outside of the box, right? It's creative real estate. It's not put something on the MLS and wait for it to sell. It is, hey, you got to close by. You're going to auction on the first Tuesday of the month. Yeah, no, you need a creative solution. You don't need just a put it on the MLS solution. So just be aware that you can be both a realtor and an investor, but don't think that you have to be a realtor or have to go to realtor school to get investing knowledge, because you're going to be unpleasantly surprised. What I will tell you though is this. I also don't want you to think, and I see a lot of investors who think, oh, I'll just go to Redfin, Trulia, Zillow to get my comps, okay? Guys, that's the do-it-yourself method. Listen, I get it. You want to get that information. That's awesome. While you're out there doing it yourself, pulling your own comps from those 3 sites, go ahead and pull down the bankruptcy paperwork at the same time and just get it all over with in one fell swoop, right? Just go and do it all yourself. Guys, you have to have a real estate friendly, investor friendly realtor on your power team to be successful as a real estate investor. If you think you're just going to get something off of the internet, like that's free information, and you're going to make a $300,000 or $400,000 decision off information that you're getting that you don't know if it is really the correct information, you are going to make a mistake, and you're going to make a mistake that costs you money. You don't have to be a realtor, but you do have to have a great realtor on your power team, or you will not be successful. And just to be clear, this is not an advertisement for me. It's funny, like I get people who come up to me all the time and say, hey, Shanoa, if you get any good deals, like why don't you bring them over to me? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to put you at the top of my bottom list, because if I get a good deal, I want to be taking it myself. But you guys need to find realtors who are not necessarily looking to take deals down themselves, but are willing to share with you their access so you can be able to get those comps, so you can be able to get that information and make a good investing decision. So the realtor decisions, trying to do it all. Some investors tell me, well, I want to become a realtor because I want to save money. Yes? Is somebody here thinking like I want to be a realtor because I want to save that commission? Anyone? Because I need at least one of you to say yes for me to say the next thing I have to say.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So right after you get your real estate license, why don't you get your HVAC tech license? Because installing a new air conditioning system, that can cost a lot of money. And you can save a lot if you became your own HVAC tech. And after you get your own HVAC tech license, why don't you go out and become an electrician, because sometimes it costs like $8,000 to rewire a house. And you could save a lot of money if you were your own licensed electrician, and you could say that about being a plumber, and you could save your way out of being a real estate investor. So it doesn't, so you can see why I had to have someone say they're doing it to save money. because it doesn't work once you put that logic all the way through. And I'll tell you, guys, focus on page 1 of the HUD. Focus on page 1 of the closing disclosure statement. That's where all the money is made. Realtors, brokers, insurance agents, title companies, they all get paid on page 2. But all the money is made on page 1. Don't get trapped on page 2 trying to be a realtor. And I will tell you this too. Phil may have mentioned this, I'm not sure. But I don't list, so I'm a licensed realtor and broker, I don't list any of the houses that Phil and I invest in. I don't property manage any of the houses that Phil and I own, okay? The reason why I don't do that is because I look at it as a minimum wage activity. I look at it as something that keeps me from my greater good, from my greater ability to generate income. And again, that is on page 1 of that closing disclosure statement. So don't, again, try to do everything, because it will limit your ability to do the biggest things and the things that will make you the most amount of money. You do have to disclose. It's easy to disclose. Some people feel very uncomfortable about it. You do have to use the state promulgated forms, the TREC forms, but you guys, whether you're a realtor or not, you need to be using that TREC contract anyway. That TREC contract is a beautifully written contract. It is updated about every 2 years with all of the new case law that's come out, with all the new confusion that's been going around about the current contract. It is impartial to the seller and it is impartial to the buyer. And it accounts for everything, including what if the house burns down in the time period that you have it under contract, where some of the one-page contracts that some of you guys might be pulling off of the internet, probably they don't have those things, okay? I think we can all agree that the internet knows everything, but the internet also has a fair amount of ridiculousness just spread in there. The problem is, if you're not educated, you don't know what from what and which is which. So use that contract. If you don't know where to find it, just Google TREC, T-R-E-C, that stands for the Texas Real Estate Commission. The URL is something like trec.us.tx.gov. What the hell were they thinking when they created this URL.com? That was funny. I mean, that was funny, right? That was funny. All right. I think I've convinced you guys, you don't want to be a realtor? Just find a realtor. Who are the realtors in the room? Raise your hand. It's okay, yeah. So people always say, well, where do I find a realtor? Go like this. They're in this room. Roughly about 10 to 15% of our membership are realtors. But you don't have to be one to be a real estate investor. Just work with someone who's already gone through the process, right? And the process, I don't know how long have you been licensed?
Since July 26th.
Since July 26th of 2018? Holy shit. What was that like?
5 years.
Okay, good. Just find an investor-friendly realtor, add that person to your power team. You have to have that person on your team to be successful. You don't want to use the comps that you find online. They're directional, but directional is not going to cut it. If it's off by 10%, that could be all of your profit. I know as a realtor, whenever someone says to me, well, Redfin says, or Trulia says, or Zillow says, like, I'm going to punch them in the neck. Like, don't you guys who are realtors? It's like, yeah, they don't. It's like it's a number, yes, but is it accurate? In many cases, no. In fact, I was looking. It's so funny. I was looking at a group of rental properties in a small town outside of Austin, and most of the rental properties in this guy's rental property portfolio are under $100,000. And one of the rental properties that I just kind of Googled, right? So I was looking, as a realtor, I was just Redfinning Zillow and just kind of get an idea, just very quickly to run through. I wasn't going to make an investment decision based on that, but what was fascinating is all of his properties came up as about $100,000 properties. One came up as a $250,000 property. And it was because it was pulling the wrong data. So if some wholesaler brought you this deal and showed you this information, man, you'd make a terrible decision based on what you found off of Redfin, Trulia, and Zillow, right? But if you had an investor-friendly realtor who was able to pull up the right information, believe me, it's going to save somebody a lot of pain. This is before you distracted me with the fact you've only been licensed for a month. What I was going to say was the fees to take the classes, the fees to take the tests, the process of going through fingerprinting, the fees with the Austin Board of Realtors, the continuing education stuff. All of those add up to you not saving a lot of money. It definitely adds up, especially in your first year cost. So again, think about that. Leverage someone who's already spent that time, that money to be able to do that. For me, I don't list any of the properties that we sell. Listing Spark's one of our vendors. They're out in the hall. They didn't come in during the presentation, but they're out there. I hired Listing Spark to list many of our properties. They list houses at $7 a day. That's like less than $300 a month. Okay, I can't get up, get out of bed, and do all of this for $7 a day. Okay, 2 of you laughed at that one at least. Carol's totally getting that.
Y'all roll.
Yeah, roll. It's totally going to happen here tonight. But again, get that realtor on your power team. Rehabbing mistakes. So we'll go over some of the big mistakes we see people doing when they're renovating a property. I hear a lot of people will say, like, I know I paid a little bit extra for it, I know I paid a little bit more for it, but I'm going to make it up because I'm going to do the renovation myself instead of paying that 10 or 15% usually to a builder or to a contractor. Usually when I see an investor who's doing this themselves, here's my experience with them. Their projects usually take at least 2 times longer than they otherwise would. So 2 times longer if they're paying on average $2,000 a month to a hard money lender, right? So if their project was going to take 4 months and now it took 8 months, so now that extra 4 months times $2,000, that's $8,000. Well, that could have paid for your contractor, and you could have had that property ready to sell when the market was in July, as opposed to ready to sell, and now you're marketing it in October, November. November is also known as no man's land when it comes to selling real estate. So again, what I see is a lot of people think they're going to save money. The projects always go longer. Again, longer costs for your hard money lender, more costs for your property taxes, etc. You don't know the codes. You'll probably mess some stuff up. Not good. Over-improving. So a lot of new investors typically over-improve, and almost every new investor overspends their initial budget, right? So this is something you have to remember. You're not living there, right? This is not your house. This is the house ultimately for somebody else, so keep that in mind. Let's see. Hiring the right contractor. Any contractors in the room? You sure? Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
How much when you started out were you, because I've done the same thing, you overspend. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. As soon as you get in there, there's more things. How much percentage-wise did you overspend in the first few houses?
I would say for me, probably...
Would it be 20%?
I would probably say 10, maybe 20% on the high end for me, but
in the beginning?
yeah, but I mean, listen, your success or failure on a renovation project is going to depend on one thing. What is that one thing? What?
When you buy it.
No, not when you buy it.
When you buy it, right?
No.
Due diligence.
No. Your success or failure. This is after you buy. This is after you buy it.
Did you have contractors?
Oh, so now all you want to talk. Okay, that's good. I'll take it. It's going to depend on one thing. It's going to depend on your scope of work and the quality of your scope of work. okay? Story time. Miguel Castillo, a contractor that we worked with for many, many years. After I did the first couple of projects with him, I knew some of his little tricks, and I knew the tricks that he would use that would cost me a little bit of money. So I remember we did a project on sandalwood. And I remember that I'll never forget, I think it was like 8201 sandalwood. Like this was over 10 years ago, okay? The reason why I remember this project is because I felt like I finally mastered the scope of work thing. I felt like I finally mastered managing a renovation, and I just felt really strong about it, and I created an incredibly detailed scope of work. And I scoped, Sherwin-Williams, SW6126 flat, on the walls, and I mean everything was like to the T detail. We had all new doors, we had all new appliances, we had all new cabinetry, brand new bathroom, brand new kitchen. Full on remodel. And I studied that scope of work, and I thought, man, I have hit everything. I totally got this. And I detailed all of the fixtures, brushed nickel. Everything was brushed nickel at this time in this house. And the day that we installed the brand new doors, I walked into the house and doing my walkthrough that day, and I noticed that all of the hinges on the doors were brass hinges. And I said, well, first of all, I had to calm myself down a little bit. I said, no problem, I'm going to recover this right now. I'm just going to pull out my statement of work, my scope of work, and I'm going to say, hey, I scoped this, and you put in this. Let's change this up. I looked at my scope of work. I did not include the hinges in my scope of work. When I say get incredibly detailed, I mean down to the brass or brushed nickel hinges, okay? And a lot of people have trouble with this, especially my right-brainers. They just want to start the project tomorrow. And especially with a lot of the contractors, they'll say stuff like, well, if you hire me now, I can start tomorrow, but if you don't, if you need to review some stuff or think about it, well, then I'm going to start another project and I won't be able to start with you for another month. Oh, really? Okay. So you will get rushed in, you will get pushed into signing a contract without a thorough scope of work. And if you're new at this, you may say, I don't even know how to make a good scope of work, right? Get somebody else to partner with you. For me, roughly I'll spend up to 2 hours at the house, at the subject property, and up to 2 hours in my office working on the scope of work. That's 4 hours. That takes a lot of time and patience, okay? I'm a left-brainer, so that's just kind of part of who I am. And I'm a left-brainer who went on a right brain track one time and then ended up more than 20% over budget because I did not have a good scope of work.
Who helped you create that scope of work? Most people start out and don't have it.
That's why I said get a partner who's done it before, because whatever you split with that partner will be less than what you end up overpaying that contractor. And I'm going to give you guys some good tips on scope of work. But again, the story time, I want that, that house on Sandalwood. Literally, I did probably in 2005, and 13 years later, I still, because of that, that's how it struck me. I want you guys to use my stories and my experiences, both good and bad, so you don't have your own experiences where you're having an argument with a contractor over brushed nickel hinges versus brass hinges. So, here are your rules of thumb for scope of work. This is really important. For every $10,000 you are spending on your renovation project, you should have at least 1 page of detail of scope of work. So if you have a $50,000 renovation project, you should have at least 5 pages of detail, line item detail, typed of scope of work. If it is anything less than that, what I can guarantee is you are going to have a problem for something that is left off that scope of work. So everybody got that? This is like tribal knowledge, really good stuff. The second thing is this. expect to spend no more than $5,000 a week. So if you have a $50,000 budget, the earliest you will be able to complete that project is 10 weeks. If you are working in the city of Austin, reduce that number from 5,000 to 4,000. Because the city of Austin, anybody in here work for the city of Austin? I'm sorry. Okay, one of you, sir. So the city of Austin, it takes forever to get the permits, it takes forever to get the inspectors. The inspectors are failing on every little thing, they're not showing up for inspections, and it's just slowing down your project, okay? So outside of Austin, about $5,000 a week, inside of Austin, about $4,000 a week. Those are good kind of rules of thumb to tell you about how much you'll be spending. If you're working on a house, a typical house that we'll work on, for example, that was built in the 1960s, 70s, and very early 80s, usually you're looking at spending about $60 a square foot for the renovation, okay? So if you have a 2,000 square foot house that was built in 1970, how much are you going to spend? $120,000. That's even on the kind of aggressive end. You may even spend more than that, okay? If you're building new in the city of Austin, you're building anything under 1,500 square feet, you're going to spend about $175 a square foot to build that new property, okay? Again, some good rules of thumb. If you see anything that's too far high or too far low, you know that something's not exactly right. So does that help at all? You don't seem satisfied, Jeff.
I don't read anything.
Oh.
I had enough.
Why are you asking me those rehab?
Well, because I was curious, because that was
I appreciate it.
That was my biggest mistake. And not only that, but you know, we get in there and start working on stuff, and more stuff will be wrong behind the walls.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something else. People won't pay extra for what's behind the walls. They only pay for what they see, because you know I would over remodel and
Jeff, yeah, stop giving advice.
Okay.
I mean, I appreciate it, but that's not correct.
It was in my case.
Well, I'm telling you, every single realtor in here is going to suggest that their buyer hires an inspector, and whether, Jeff, you are going behind the walls or not, are the inspectors going to pull plugs and look for the wiring? Are the inspectors going to get in the... Yes, they are. Yes, yeah, they are. Are they going to look in the attic and look for the R level of insulation? Yes, they are. They're going to look at the plumbing stuff. Yeah. Now, they're not going to do a static test on the main drain line. You're going to have to hire a separate plumber to do that. But every single good realtor in this room is going to suggest to their client that that's something that they get done.
But what sells the house is the appeal.
100%. But you can't have, like, that's like having the most beautiful house in the world with a foundation that's crumbling. That's what you're saying, and that's not true.
That happens. I have enough experience doing it.
Like, dude.
It may not be your experience, but I did about 25 houses, and that was my experience.
Realtors in the room, will you please raise your hand again? Realtors in the room, keep your hands up. Realtors in the room, if you agree with Jeff, leave your hands up. It's not just me, Jeff. I'm just saying, okay? We can argue more, but
different experiences. And mine was in Houston. You're dealing with Boston. Maybe it's different.
Anybody else want to hear more from Jeff? Anybody else want to give Jeff a mic? Somebody else want to go on?
I super appreciate you for telling your truth.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. But I don't want his truth to negatively affect some of the decisions that are made in this room for investing going forward. Because the truth is, if you're going to put your house on the market and put it on the MLS, I guarantee you that that inspector is going to blow up the things that Jeff has said. That's just my experience, and I think all the other realtors in this room experience. We can keep arguing, but I'd rather not. Can we move on? Good? Awesome. All right, permitting. I used to have this little thing that I used to say, where it went something like this. I always get permits. I always get permits, always get permits, always get permits. The market has really changed. In fact, the city of Boston is like, I saw on a bus recently, if you see your neighbor doing unpermitted work, dial 311 and turn in your neighbor. They have people who are patrolling the streets to find people who are doing unpermitted work. I'll tell you, I have one of my rental properties that I bought 9 years ago. When I bought it, it had a garage conversion. And judging by the height of the shag carpet that was in the garage conversion, that garage was converted in 1971, okay? About 5 years ago, the city of Austin wrote me a love letter that went like this. We see that you've converted this garage. We'd like you to get that permitted. Wait, what? This garage was converted way before I owned it. Yeah, we don't care here at the city of Austin. You need to get it, you need to either turn it back into a garage, number one, or you can get it permanent and bring it up to the current 2013 standards. Guys, it's a lot harder to get away without getting a permit these days, especially in the city of Austin. If you do that, you will probably get red tagged. Red tag means your work gets stopped. Red tag might mean that if you put up the sheetrock, they may ask you to take the sheetrock down, which is going to be a very painful thing for you to do. And they may ask to inspect not just the electrical, not just the insulation, but also the plumbing, so just be ready to do that. Do not be careful as you're managing your remodels. It's easy to start to overpay your contractors. Contractors right now only want to deal with people that are easy to deal with. They don't want to go and create a 4-hour scope of work. They just want to know whether or not you want to hire them or not. It's made our life as real estate investors working with contractors very difficult because there is unlimited supply of work for contractors right now. So please do be careful. We use an affidavit of all bills paid. We reach out to the different subcontractors along the way to make sure the subcontractors are being paid as well, because it's not uncommon for you to pay a contractor and for the contractor not to pay the subcontractors. I've seen many investors and non-investors alike get liens put on their house even though they paid their bills in full and they could not get those liens released. So make sure everyone's getting paid as you're paying, just to make sure you are safe. Also, don't let your project go dark. What does this mean? You really want your contractor working there at least 5 days a week, if not 6 days a week. Every week that project goes dark is a week that you're paying your hard money lender, is a week that you're paying property taxes, is a week that you're paying insurance, is a week that you're paying utilities, is a week that you're opening yourself up to all the different things that happen to vacant houses, which can be many. I see a lot of investors not getting a hard money loan that is sufficient to handle the amount of work that is done. What that means is they have to renew their hard money loan. That means they have to pay points all over again, and that can get a little risky. You got to get enough money, and you got to get enough time. And also be careful not to do the work yourself, because you will find that you will not time the market right. It's a lot easier to sell in spring and summer than it is in winter. Don't do change orders, and that's why I said, guys, you will live or you will die by that scope of work. The more thorough it is, the less likely it is you will have to make a change order. When I introduce myself to a new contractor, I introduce myself as no change order Shinoa. You guys can borrow that. That basically says, hey, let's get this scope of work right before we get started. It's going to take extra time, but that way when we're communicating, everything is clear, because you think, oh, I told this contractor this, we agreed, we talked about it. It's not until a month or 2 months later that you realize, no, you guys were not on the same page at all. So please create that scope of work. Don't do any change orders. If you do a change order, make an official change order, meaning write it down so you know what the additional cost is, or if there's costs that need to be taken off because you're doing something a little bit different. Don't accept a one-page bid. What does that mean? So sometimes I see a contractor write up something Fix house, $40,000, half due today, right? Don't go with that contractor. You're gonna get a product you're not gonna be happy with. Let's see, out-of-state pitchman. So how many of you guys have been to like a Fortune Builders or Rich Dad, Poor Dad or something else like that? Okay, yeah. Sometimes their education is really good, but sometimes it's not, right? They're not plugged into the local community. They don't live here. They don't invest here. They don't work here. They don't take pride of being here. With these out-of-state people, you see them once and then you never see them again. I always joke with the people that I work with, you will see me again, whether you want to or not. This Real Estate Investor Association is my baby, even before I had my baby, who now has bigger shoe size than me. But what we like about getting trained from local people is Texans teaching Texans how to invest in Texas using strategies and systems that work in Texas. Some of these out-of-state people just don't have that local power team, cannot tell you where to go, cannot answer those very specific questions that you need to be aware of. Can't partner with you, can't fund your deals, don't have that local access to the MLS, don't know the Texas state laws, which are very different. And this bill says all hat and no cattle. Talking about buying properties in up markets, it's recognizing it's an up market, it's okay to pay a little bit more, but guys, you do have to be careful. One of the things that I watched very closely, one of the things that we talked about in the presentation for the market update, is the months of inventory. As the months of inventory go up, you cannot afford to pay more, okay? And you have to not just look at months of inventory on a macro Austin level, you have to look at months of inventory for your subject property in the price range, in the neighborhood you're investing in, and in the price range you're investing in. So if you're building, $700 to $1 million properties in East Austin, for example, you need to look at the months of inventory of $700 to $1 million properties in East Austin, not just East Austin in general, not just Area 5, not just Area 3. You gotta dig down and get specific, because that will tell you how long you're going to be holding your property. In the up markets, we tackle the big projects. We build the big houses. We build the $1 million houses. But you do have to change your strategy as the market starts to change. And I will say, and this is big, and I'm seeing this already, even though we're in an up market, I see a lot of new investors who maybe have been doing it for a couple of years and start to kind of like get, a little full of themselves, a little overconfident, and they made $60,000 on the first project, so what do? They want to double down, so now I want to do 2 and I want to make 120. And then they want to double down again. So now they want to do 4 and make 240. And then they want to double down again. Okay? And what happens is, if they have too many projects to manage, all of those projects get about halfway done or 3/4 of the way done, and then they run out of money. And then their lenders start to foreclose on them. So this is when, if you look at the foreclosure list, you ever see an LLC on the foreclosure list? That's an investor who got over leveraged or screwed something up. Either didn't manage their contract or didn't create a good scope of work. I've seen investors get into other types of trouble. One of the things I can recommend is, if you guys think you're going to go big time, so you think you're going to go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 4, whenever you get above 4 or 5, you need to bring your financier, the person who's bringing the money, onto your team as a partner, not just as a lender. The tendency is to bring them on as a lender to limit their profits so you get all of the upside, right? But if you bring them on as just a lender, what does that give them the ability to do if something goes wrong? Foreclose on you. But if you bring them on as a partner and the project needs more funds for whatever reason, are they going to foreclose on you? No, because they're invested, right? They've got skin in the game and they've got profit in the game, okay? So don't get overconfident. Please be careful out there as you are investing. And I don't mean to be like, I'm not the cheerleading squad for real estate investing. If you want that, yeah, go see one of these out-of-state pitchmen. I'm the realistic squad for real estate investing. And I've seen both, again, these things go right and these things go wrong. That's why we want to share both of those things with you. Now, if you do this right, you bring your financier on as a partner, then that is definitely your ability to do more projects and do them more safely so that you can be long-term greedy. That is a philosophy that one of my real estate investor colleagues taught me, or actually even wrote a book about 5 years ago, being long-term greedy. So think about that in your investing so that you can be investing for the long term. Phil and I have been investing since 2003. We have not had to take a paycheck from anyone since then, since 2003 for him. It took me a little longer. I stayed in corporate America until 2004, but we want to stay unemployable, right? We don't want to have to go to work for someone else. We have internalized both these mistakes and these opportunities to be able to be self-sufficient and successful, incredibly successful as real estate investors. And I hope some of the lessons that I share with you over the last hour will help you guys as well. Thank you for coming out tonight, and I'll see you at the next Real Estate Investor Association meeting. Thank you guys.